Welcome in. Belly up, have a seat, grab a drink as we talk some Wingman Fantasy Football. Welcome on into another edition of Wingman Fantasy Football, the League Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Furley, and as always, I'd like to thank all of you, or any of you who may be watching or listening to today's show. It is Friday, November 21st. This is episode 197, and we're going to do a Week 12 preview. In this show, we'll set the slate for this weekend's primetime games. We'll check in on some player news and practice reports, check the activity of the waiver wire inside the Wingman Fantasy Football League. We'll also preview our featured NFL games as selected by you, the audience. We'll go over this week's matchups in the Wingman Fantasy Football League as we're down to 3 weeks left and the playoff push is real. And we'll see who's on top of the newest power rankings. We'll also have our starts of the week, and we'll have an installment of a fourth and long with me today. And we'll also grab our controllers and select our teams in this week's Wingman Jam contest. And we'll finish off the show as we dive into the mailbag, answering your questions out there. But before we do any of that, I'd like to make sure that everybody is in the room. Wingmen assemble! All right, now that everyone is here, let's set the primetime games. Actually, before we get into the actual games, let me remind you that we have 4 NFL teams on bye this week. We will be without players from the Denver Broncos, LA Chargers, Miami Dolphins, and the Washington Commanders. And you'd be shocked, this particular bye week really affects me personally quite a bit, as all of my flex-type backup players that I've been putting in for injured guys are all on these teams, i.e., Kamani Vidal and RJ Harvey and Deebo Samuel. So big-time players are out for me. Even though they're not superstars, they are starters in my lineup. All right, now for the prime time and island games. We are done with the Europe series on Sunday mornings, so we are back to our normal 1 game on Thursday, 1 night game on Sunday, and 1 Monday night game. So let's start with our Thursday night game where the Buffalo Bills went stampeding their way into Houston to take on the Houston Texans at 8:15 p.m. And the Texans did the stomping on this one as they dominated the Bills, sacking Josh Allen 8 times, getting 3 turnovers, and winning this game by, was it 4 points? 23-19 was the final in this one. So that one is in the books. But our next primetime game is the Sunday night game where we have a clash, a battle between NFC divisional leaders with the Tampa Bay Bucks swashbuckling their way into LA to take on the Rams at 8:20 p.m. And our Monday night game, our last game of the week, I don't know what to think about this one, guys, with the Carolina Panthers stalking their way into Santa Clara to take on the San Francisco 49ers. Both these guys, I believe, are second in their divisions here, and this is a big-time game in terms of their potential playoff outlooks. All right. Now let's get into some player news. Starting off here in New England, we've had Ramondre Stevenson, who's missed the last 2 games with a toe injury, has gotten in multiple limited practices this week, and he may return, mudding up that backfield once again for the Patriots, and they have a juicy matchup against the Cincinnati Bengals. Staying on that same side of the ball, Kayshon Boutte returned to a full practice after missing the last 2 games with a hamstring injury, looking like he is trending in the right direction to get back onto the field. In some sad, bad news here, Joe Mixon is not expected to return to the field in 2025. We've kind of had that hint all season long that he was not going to play, but it's not been official. And technically, it's still not official, although reports are saying that as we get closer to the end of the season, the likelihood is more and more realized that he will not play this year. All right, this one's interesting, guys. We have Josh Jacobs did get in a limited practice on Thursday. Hold your horses. The limited practice was solo drills on the side field here. So he's dealing with a knee contusion, and apparently it's not a pain tolerance thing. It's a swelling and a mobility thing. In the last game, he said his knee swelled up quite a bit right away, kind of locking up his knee in terms of being able to bend it, which is what kept him out of the latter part of that game. So as long as he can get the swelling down and they think they can control it, he's got a decent chance to play, although that is a big question mark heading into the weekend. David Njoku has yet to practice this week as he tends to a knee injury and may not be on the field for new rookie Shadur Sanders, who's looking to make his first start of the season. Also, other quarterbacks making their first, well, not first start, but another start this season. Tyrod Taylor has been named the starter for the New York Jets, taking away whatever competitive advantage Aaron Glenn had by not releasing that information until Saturday night, Sunday morning. He has given away the game here. He's letting the other team know that Tyrod Taylor will be the starter. Another quarterback to watch here, Aaron Rodgers returned to a limited practice on Thursday after sitting out the Wednesday session with that fractured wrist. Good news was that he does not need any surgery, so it's going to be, I don't know if he's going to play or not. The fact that he doesn't need surgery just means he won't be out for a minimum amount of time, so we'll see if he gets in or not. They'll definitely have to tape that up good with some sort of soft cast. It is his non-throwing hand, but if he cannot go, Mason Rudolph will get the start this week against the Chicago Bears. Staying in Pittsburgh, Jaylen Warren got in a limited practice after a DNP on Wednesday, and he says he's good. I mean, we'll have to keep an eye on the Friday press reports, but there's a pretty good chance he's going to get back on the field, although he'll probably be splitting carries with Kenneth Gainwell. Alec Iomanner. Why am I saying his name? Not very important here, right? But nope, he has yet to practice this week, meaning he may miss this week. We've already lost Calvin Ridley for the season, which means Chimere Dike, who did leave last week with a chest injury, but he has been practicing in full, and he may be the only option this week for the Tennessee Titans if you are a risk taker, a gamble maker, and you want to go with the likely only receiver of note for the Tennessee Titans against the Seattle Seahawks. This would be your play. Chimere Dike might be the only viable option, mixed in with Van Jefferson as well. Jackson Dart has been limited in practice this week as he's dealing with a concussion here. However, they say he is trending towards a return to the field in Week 12. Once again, these Friday and Saturday practice reports are going to be paramount to know the availability for someone like Dart. If he cannot go, we will have Jameis Winston get a second consecutive start. I'm leaning towards, I don't actually know, this was 50-50 in my opinion, but I know they want to get Jackson Dart out there, but they also don't want to mortgage their future by putting him out there too early. And they're really not playing for anything in terms of wins and losses. Darius Slayton, who missed last week with a hamstring injury, has returned to a limited practice on Thursday. If he plays with either quarterback, but even more so I think with Jackson Dart, he is a viable play as he is the most well-rounded receiver in terms of depth of target and ability to catch here. As you have someone like Jalen Hyatt is a deep threat without the full route tree, and Wan'Dale Robinson that keeps it short. Darius Slayton is a good mixture of both. If he gets on the field, he's a decent play this week, and the Giants are playing Detroit, so they are going to have to throw to keep up. Xavier Worthy, who's been dealing with that shoulder injury all year, is now dealing with an ankle injury, and he was limited in practice on Thursday. He's probably going to play, although I'm not certain of that at this point, but he's just been banged up all year long and really been taking a backseat to Rashee Rice and even Hollywood Brown when he was before Rice returned from his suspension. Isaiah Pacheco, who missed the last two games with a knee injury, has been getting a limited practice this week. I don't know truly his availability, but I will say it is a huge game as the Kansas City Chiefs are playing the Indianapolis Colts. So they're going to need all hands on deck because one more loss can really hamper their chance to make the playoffs this year. Can you imagine? That's the Super Bowl hangover. It happens more often than not. The team that loses the Super Bowl has a really tough go the next year. We still have faith in Kansas City with their pedigree. However, a loss this week will really put them behind the eight ball. In that same game, Daniel Jones on the other side of the ball for the Indianapolis Colts popped up midweek with a calf injury, had a limited practice on Thursday. It's usually not good to have late in the week, injuries pop up. Sometimes on Wednesday, they kind of mask it as a day off here, but Thursday is a little more concerning. Keep an eye on that. I wish I had it here in my notes, but I saw they were going to have Anthony Richardson designated to return. I'm not sure how many games he's missed since he was put on the IR with that eye injury, although he is healed up and should be able to be back on the field at his earliest moment. I wish I had that ready for you. But there's a chance here. If Daniel Jones can't go, Anthony Richardson might be soon to go here. If not this week, then next week, if this injury is a long-term injury for Daniel Jones. Michael Penix, we already mentioned, was placed on the IR. However, it's even worse than that. He's having season-ending surgery to repair an ACL. I believe it's in his right knee, the same knee that he's had surgery on twice before in college. It wasn't a full tear. It was a partial tear, but I guess they figured the best course of action was to go in there and I don't know the exact medical procedure here, but essentially have surgery to re-repair that ligament as opposed to have rest for repair. Honestly, I think that's the best course of action. I don't know if you recall years and years and years ago, Ryan Tannehill had something similar to that, and he took 6 weeks off, came back, went through a whole offseason, and then ended up tearing that ACL the following year. It's one of those things. If this thing is damaged, just get it fixed. Miss the 6 to 9, 12 months now instead of missing 3 months and then having the surgery done anyway in the future. So unfortunately, this ends his season. I don't know if he has a less of a recovery time, being that it wasn't a full tear. But it's going to be hard going for him to be back by the opening week of next season. Although, again, I'm not sure the timeline with repairing the non-full tear. With Penix out, Kirk Cousins will be the starting quarterback for the remainder of the season, unless he gets hurt, or I don't think they have anyone on their another quarterback worth putting in over Kirk Cousins. So this is going to be dicey here, guys. He has not been good for the last year, calendar year here or so. So he's going to get a chance, though. There's going to be no leash on Kirk Cousins. He's going to be let loose and have a chance to redeem his value here and his career. Staying in Atlanta once more, we have Drake London is not going to play in Week 12. Technically, he's listed as doubtful, but he's not going to play this week as he's dealing with that PCL strain. And there is some optimism that he may return in Week 13. Honestly, I think he's going to miss at least 2 to 3 weeks, but they're talking up in positive terms, at least at this point, coming out of Week 12. All right, guys, this is fun a little bit, depending on what side of the line you are here. Joe Flacco has been limited with a shoulder injury. He's been dealing with a shoulder injury for about 3 weeks. He did play one of his best games ever on the shoulder injury, and then last week he had a super dud with that shoulder injury, but he's been limited. But here's the twist, guys. Joe Burrow has logged in back-to-back full practices, and I think they do want to hold Joe Burrow out one more week and have him come in on that Thanksgiving night game against the Ravens, as they did state 2 weeks back. But if Joe Flacco truly is limited and going to be less than, 70% going here, and Joe Burrow's good to go, there's a chance, I'm not making a prediction, but there's a chance Joe Burrow might be back in the lineup for the Bengals in Week 12. Oh my, we thought he wasn't coming back till December. He's going to come back in mid-November or late November at the latest. Let's get to our Green Bay wide receivers. We have 4 of them here: Dontavian Wicks, Matthew Golden, Romeo Doubs, and Christian Watson. They've all been practicing in limited capacity all week long. I expect them all to be active this week, as Golden was active last week, and he was the sketchiest one in terms of availability. So they're all going to play, but they are all beat up. So it's already a shot in the dark which one to play here, but it's even more of a shot in the dark if you don't know which one's going to be truly healthy. If I had to rank them, I would rank them Watson, Doubs, Golden, Wicks, is my opinion. Staying with the Green Bay Packers, Jordan Love, if you don't remember, he got knocked out for a period of time with a shoulder injury. I thought he was going to be done for the day as he got hit in the first 1 or 2 drives, but he did come back late in the first half, and he did finish the game on Week 11. He got in full practice on Thursday, guys. He is handling this injury quite well and should be good to go for Week 12. And who are they playing? They got a big matchup against the Minnesota Vikings. This is a make-or-break game for the Minnesota Vikings, and a very needed game for Green Bay to really solidify their track onto the playoff positioning. Tedero McMillan, who's been dealing with an ankle injury, did get back on the field in a full practice session on Thursday. The rookie receiver who had his breakout game last year should be able to continue that mode here. Again, they're playing on Monday night, so for him having a Wednesday limited session here is really not that big of a deal, as they have the extra day. Alvin Kamara continues to get limited practices as he deals with that ankle injury that's been ailing him for the last several weeks. However, he has been playing through the injury every time he's been limited, so I expect him to play this week as well. Now we get into our Tampa Bay players here. Bucky Irving remains limited. This is his 5th consecutive limited practice. Even with the 3 limited practices last week, he did miss last week. So we're not sure if he's going to get in or not, as he's dealing with a shoulder injury and a foot injury, I believe it was. So this is big news here. We've got a lot of 50-50 type guys here between Josh Jacobs and Emmanuel Wilson, Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell, Bucky Irving and Sean Tucker. I feel like there's someone else out there as well. So we've kind of these guys that really depends on if they're in or out, who we're going to play or not. But even if Bucky Irving gets in the lineup, they're talking, the coaches for the Bucs are anyway, that he will get eased in. Now, that's what they're saying now. I'm not sure how it's going to go. So expect at this point Sean Tucker to be still the main back. It just depends if he's going to be a 60, 60, 30, 10 guy, or if it's going to be I'm making a percentage here. If he's going to be a 70-30 guy, or if he's going to be dropped down to 50, and then the other 50% being split between Rachaad White and Bucky Irving. You can do the math. You know what I meant. Okay. All right. Chris Godwin has gotten in full practices, guys. He's been limited for the last 3 weeks. This is crazy. Both these guys were not placed on the IR, and both of them missed more than the 4 weeks. I think Bucky Irving has missed 6 games. Chris Godwin, 5 or 6 as well. They're getting closer and closer, but with Chris Godwin getting a full practice in, guys, there's a decent chance he might get back on the field unless they really want to hold him out. But the Bucs have lost 2 of their last 3 games, and they are going to need a win and all hands on deck in a big matchup against the LA Rams on Sunday night. We have another one of those backfields where the news is really going to dictate what type of outlooks we're looking for putting our players in our lineups. Bashal Tutin, who left Week 11 with an ankle injury, has gotten in limited practice on Thursday. And Travis Etienne is also getting limited practice with a shoulder injury. I think both these guys are going to play, but they're both banged up, so we definitely want to keep an eye on this one here. They're going to split carries no matter what here, but if one is truly healthier than the other, they are going to be a smash play this week. Jacksonville is up against the Arizona Cardinals. Oh, that's a big plus matchup. So we kind of want any offensive players, especially the running game for Jacksonville this week. So just keep an eye on there. But Tutin and Etienne have both getting limited practices. Brian Thomas Jr., who's missed the last 2 weeks with an ankle injury, he's been getting in limited practices as well. Truly not sure of his outlook here because last week he got limited practices in as well, and he was questionable going into Sunday before he was deemed inactive on that Sunday morning. So we're going to keep an eye on Brian Thomas Jr. He's got to be coming back pretty soon, but this is the same trend he had last week when he did miss. So don't have any rock-solid opinions on his availability for Week 12. Trey Benson, Arizona running back, has been getting in limited practice this week and may be activated soon from the IR, and it may be as early as this week. With Amari DiMercato already been ruled out here, they're going to need all hands on deck as well. Bam Knight, Michael Carter, and maybe Trey Benson might split the carries 3 ways in this matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Marvin Harrison Jr., who missed last week with that emergency appendectomy, has already been ruled out once again for Week 12. I kind of mentioned in our last show, there's not a huge sample size here, but there is some. There's been some sample size with players who've had this procedure done, missing anywhere between 8 to like 14 days, give or take. So this is right in line. Missing 2 games is right in line there. So coming back after 1 week would be on the early side. Missing 2 games is on the longer side here. Nonetheless, with Marvin Harrison Jr. missing this game once again, can Michael Wilson go back-to-back as he was had the most yards of the season for the NFL with 185 last week? So this gives a big opportunity once again for Michael Wilson to see if he can repeat that stellar performance from Week 11. Going back to Jacksonville here, we have Brenton Strange, who's dealing with a hip injury. He had his 21-day practice window open last week. I thought he had a decent chance to play in Week 11. However, he was held out one more time. With that being said, I think he's got even a stronger chance to play in Week 12. However, his 21-day window won't be up prior to the kickoff of this week, so they could hold him out one more week before having to make a end-of-season decision on his availability. And Torrey Horton, receiver for the Seattle Seahawks, he had that breakout game 3 weeks ago now, missed the following 2 weeks. He is still not practicing, guys. It looks like he's trending towards missing another week. Sorry for all the jump cuts out there, guys. As you can tell, I'm a little under the weather, and I'm just pausing it as I have coughs coming in and out here, so bear with me on that. All right, guys, it's now time to take a look at our waiver wire for this past week. We're letting you guys in. This is a real league. This is what really real people spent on real players here. So we're going to talk about it a little bit just so you can compare and be like, oh, wow, that was a really good deal, or he spent way too much. Nonetheless, like I said, these are competitive teams trying to improve their team. So these are not speculative on numbers here. These are real numbers. So this week, we actually had quite a bit of waiver wire pickups. One of our highest bit of activity we've had, I think, all season. We had 11 waiver bids this week on 8 NFL players. That can't be right. One, two, three. Yeah, sorry. 11 waiver bids on 8 NFL players, where only one player received multiple bids. Can you guess which NFL player that is who got multiple bids? You would be right. Our highest price acquisition this week was Emmanuel Wilson, who went to Crazy Fish for $35. And he was not the only manager to bid on Emmanuel Wilson, as there were 3 others this week. We had Red Sox Nation put in a $21 bid. Cubert's Rage put in a $21 bid. And yours truly put in a $12 bid. This was a very I need running back help this particular week. I wanted to pick up Emmanuel Wilson, but there was no guarantee that Josh Jacobs was going to sit this week. I knew Crazy Fish was going to put in the highest bid, as he tends to do. He put in his last $35. So $36 would have taken this, but it'd been awful to put half of your fab budget in on a player you can only play for 1 week and who may not play at all. So that was the risk that I was not willing to take. I put in the $12 safety bid here to see if maybe I could get him under the radar. I was willing to blow $12 on a chance, but I didn't want to put $36 on a chance. So $35 ahead of 21. He could have gotten him for cheaper, but he went all out his last $35. I'm just going to put in there, Crazy Fish. Good bid. You needed it, but I think you paid a little too much. Oh, wrong button. He is rolling, but you paid too much.
You paid too much.
There it is. All right. I was surprised. We had a lot of quarterbacks picked up. Our next highest price acquisition this week was Kirk Cousins. Yes, Kirk Cousins went to Red Sox Nation for $12, and there were no other bids for Kirk Cousins. I think you paid a little too much.
You paid too much.
I'm not going to lie. I need quarterback help. I was looking at all these backup quarterbacks. I was like, I'll pick up these guys. They were all picked up this week. So we're going to have to wait to see if something changes in the next couple of weeks in terms of my team. Daniel Carlson, we've been talking him up. Been a decent kicker this year, but he's playing inside late in the season here is very beneficial. Daniel Carlson went to Go Gators for $4, and there were no other bids.
You paid too much.
Davis Mills, an insurance pickup. He's not even going to the starting lineup as a streaming quarterback, but he went to They Took Our Jobs for $3. So he's just kind of solidifying his backup here. I think does he have CJ Stroud? You know what? I'm going to look real quick. Let me pause this real quick. Yeah, so They Took Our Jobs is playing Baker Mayfield. So it is his backup, but he does have CJ Stroud, who should be back next week, I'm assuming. I think this is one of those things like if they maybe keep Davis Mills as the starter, since he's been 3-0 as the starter, he locks up the Houston starting quarterback regardless of who it is. So I don't have a problem with that necessarily, but he did spend $3 on a quarterback that he's not playing and may not ever use at all if CJ Stroud gets his job back, pending coming back from his concussion. All right, our next, another quarterback picked up. Cubert's Rage picked up Mason Rudolph for $1, and boy, it sounds tough, but I do get it, as he has Jaden Daniels on bye this week, so he's got Aaron Rodgers in his starting lineup, and like I said, Aaron Rodgers is about a 50-50 this week. I think they're going to try and get Rodgers in, but with a broken wrist, there's a decent chance Mason Rudolph gets in. So these guys are picking up the backups to their ailing starters here. And the fact that he's got Jaden Daniels on bye this week and also dealing with his own injury, looks like he's going to play either a Aaron Rodgers with a broken left wrist or a Mason Rudolph in his first start of the season. Crazy Fish, who had $0 after that $35 bid came in for Emmanuel Wilson, picked up the LA Rams defense for $0. Andre Yusevis for $0. A nice pickup with Jamar Chase being suspended this week. So a potential sneaky streamer play here. And Tyler Shuck even went for $0 to I'll take the under 40. All right, guys, it is now time to get into our preview of our 3 featured NFL games for week number 12 as selected by you, the audience. Thank you out there for everyone who put in their votes for which games they wanted to go over here. And these are not our highest profile games, but these are a lot of the games where we mentioned these running backs, these kind of 50-50 guys. If one guy plays, one guy's out kind of thing. And what are we going to do about it? Starting off, our first game here is the Minnesota Vikings heading over to Green Bay. This one's at Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern time kickoff. The over-under is pretty low here, guys, at 41.5. Green Bay is favored by 6.5 points. That's a big spread, and I know Green Bay is a better team, but they don't score a lot of points either, and the Vikings score randomly. I think Minnesota's gonna cover this game at the minus 6.5. I don't really have an idea on the over-under. That's really low. I'm going to say over. This game's probably going to be 24-20, something like that. But I do have Green Bay winning this one at home. All right, so now what players are we talking about in our lineups this week? We got our quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings, J.J. McCarthy. Always has a chance to get 16 to 20 points with his rushing floor here. However, he really has not been good. J.J. McCarthy is not someone I want to play this week. So I'm not trying to play him at any time. Although people are hurt, we got Mason Rudolph as a potential starter this week. So if you had that option, I would play McCarthy over Mason Rudolph, for example. We got our running backs, Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason. Aaron Jones, since coming back here, he's dealing with that shoulder injury, but he's been practicing in full, been playing in the last 3 games, and he's been playing quite well. Aaron Jones has earned himself to be an automatic start here, although this is a tough matchup. But I have a feeling Aaron Jones is going to get a chance to do the Lambeau leap once again in his old stomping grounds here. I would not be afraid to play Aaron Jones despite the tough matchup. Jordan Mason on the other side is a dart throw. He's going to need to score a touchdown as he's really not as involved in the running and passing game as Aaron Jones is. Feels like Aaron Jones is a lock for at least 74, 75 yards and potential for a score, while Jordan Mason is more in that 40-yard cap looking for a touchdown to make his day. Now for the receivers here. Man, Justin Jefferson is really frustrated, really having a tough go here with J.J. McCarthy, but you can't sit him. I have the same problem with A.J. Brown. Justin Jefferson is very similar, that you have to play him, just deal with what comes, and just be mad at it over and over again. And Jordan Addison on that same side has actually been outperforming Justin Jefferson quite a bit here. But it's hard to really trust J.J. McCarthy to support anybody in the passing game. If you've got them both, I guess you go with the big name guy. You can play. I put Jordan Addison as a secondary flex at this point. He's probably with a high upside. He's a good player. It's just really hard to trust the Minnesota offense against a good defense and on the road. So with that being said, here, Jordan Addison, you can start him. I'd be looking for other options if you have some sneaky plays with really good matchups. Now for the other questionable guys here, Jalen Naylor and TJ Hawkinson. Got to avoid them, guys. Like I said, McCarthy can barely support 1.5 receivers. He's sure as heck not going to support these back-end flex plays. Now for the other side of the ball here, Jordan Love, coming off that shoulder injury, looked really good, though, despite that injury last week. And with the running game being a little suspect with Josh Jacobs either being not fully healthy or them going to a backup, Emmanuel Wilson, who is capable. Nonetheless, I think they're going to start opening up their passing game a little bit more. Jordan Love has a chance to be a very sneaky play here for the next couple weeks. I have Jordan Love here. I don't have exact rankings, but I'd put him in that 8 to 9 range. I think you have to start Jordan Love. I would not be afraid to start Jordan Love this week unless you have like super matchups here, or better players with better matchups. I think he's above the streaming, or if he is a streaming quarterback, he is the top of the line streamer this particular week. Now for the question marks, Josh Jacobs, Emmanuel Wilson. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Are we afraid, even if Josh Jacobs is active, are we afraid of him either aggravating the injury or, exacerbating it so he might be limited? If you recall here, it's a different injury, but he was banged up for about 2.5 weeks with a calf injury where he was limited in snaps. He was splitting pretty close to 50-50 with Emmanuel Wilson. However, if Josh Jacobs plays, they do their darndest, and they trust him the most in short yardage situation, especially in the second half, to try and get him a touchdown. His upside will be limited either if he plays, I think. However, he's probably going to – you got to almost bank on him for a touchdown at this point. I would expect 14 points out of him, at 60 yards, 3 catches, and a touchdown, something like that. So definitely lower your expectations. But if you don't have anyone on your bench who you can expect to score 12 points or more, Josh Jacobs will have to be in your lineup if he's active. That's the big question, though. Now the question is Emmanuel Wilson. Are we playing him if Josh Jacobs is active? You could. I tried to do that a couple weeks back when I thought they were splitting carries, but that particular game, they did not, as Josh Jacobs got a lot more work that week, and they were actually playing behind, and they put Chris Brooks in as a third down back more often. So I got burned when I played Emmanuel Wilson in a 50-50 role, hoping for a random touchdown. Although this week seems like Josh Jacobs is definitely more banged up than the third week of him dealing with that calf injury a couple weeks back. So if Jacobs is out, I'm playing Emmanuel Wilson. There's no doubt about it, especially if you spent $35 on your fab to pick him up. Jacobs is out, Wilson is in. If Jacobs is in, It's a dart throw. It's not the worst thing out there, but it is a gamble. Like I said, we've already seen this before. Now for the receivers, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Dontavian Wicks, Matthew Golden. I'll throw Musgrave in here. At this point, none of these guys are must starts, although I told you before, I would rank them Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Matthew Golden, and Dontavian Wicks, with Watson and Romeo Doubs being flex considerations or wide receiver threes, depending on your roster configuration. All right, on to our next game here. The Jacksonville Jaguars against the Arizona Cardinals. This game's on Sunday at 4:05 Eastern kickoff. The over-under on this one is a pretty nice 47.5 points. With Jacksonville a road favorite at -3 points, I have the Arizona Cardinals taking this one. I don't like road favorites in games that are not obvious here, as we did this before with the Buffalo game. My heart said to go with the Houston Texans, which I should have done, and my head said you can't go against Buffalo here, and that just shows you the home teams later in the year here, and these games that aren't obvious. I think you got to go with the home team here. So I'm going with Arizona to cover the -3 points, of course, because I have them winning this one outright. In terms of the over-under, I'd probably go under here. 47.5 is a pretty big number. Arizona does score a bunch, but they do it when they have to catch up, when they give up a lot of points. Now, this is interesting here because they've been giving up points due to turnovers early in the game, and Jacksonville is one of the top teams in terms of creating turnovers on defense. But I don't think they can score touchdowns off those turnovers. If they're going to get 2 or 3 turnovers in this game, they're probably going to end up with field goals. So I'm going to put this one under, and Arizona winning this one outright. All right, now for our fantasy options, going on to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence. I don't trust him. I'm not a fan. My co-host Bernie tends to, I don't want to say is a fan of his, but gives him a little more deference here. I'm not looking to play Trevor Lawrence at all. Honestly, let's see. We were talking about some other players here. I have Jordan Love ahead of Lawrence for sure. JJ McCarthy, I'd even probably have in that same range. That's your personal favorite. If you hate McCarthy, you can play Lawrence. If you hate Lawrence, I'd play McCarthy. Again, Arizona's given up a ton of points though, but Lawrence is not the one doing it. Even last week they scored so many points because their defense was so awesome, but it was their running game who dominated against the Chargers last week. Trevor Lawrence did get a rushing touchdown, but he's really not playing well in terms of passing the ball. So it's up to you if you want to play Lawrence. I'm looking for other options for sure. Now for Travis Etienne and Bayshell Tootin. This one, they're both limited in practice this week, guys. If one's out, the other one is a must play. If they both play, I think they're both flex worthy. If you follow our rewind shows, that's why I like to do it, because we kind of forget here how good these guys have been. If you don't recall, in our last rewind, when we went over one of our managers' lineups here, Travis Etienne's on fire, guys. He's had 3 straight games of over 13 points. He's been quietly good. I've heard other shows saying Travis Etienne's not been very good lately. The points say otherwise, so it's one of those things like you might have a preconceived notion here. I'm not saying he's a great player, but I'm saying you can't deny the fact that he's been productive for the last 3 weeks. And honestly, last week, Bayshell Tootin looked even better than Travis Etienne, as Etienne got some of the bigger touchdown runs here, but both of them got in the end zone. Both had strong days. If they're both healthy, I'm looking at both these guys as strong flex plays, running back threes here. If any one of them is out, the other guy moves up to an RB2 at the worst, and a very strong matchup. Now for the receivers for Jacksonville, we got Brian Thomas Jr., who's been not good all year, to be honest with you, dealing with a multitude of injuries, from a shoulder injury to now an ankle injury, missing time, and when he's on the field, not performing. I don't know how much of that is his fault. Like I said, Trevor Lawrence is missing everybody. We got Jacoby Myers, had a regular floor game last week, getting about 8 fantasy points. And again, it's only his second game with the team, so this will be his 3rd game. Again, it's how much you trust Trevor Lawrence. Although Myers was just as good last year with Aiden O'Connell, for example. So he's played with lesser quarterbacks and been just fine. He's had good games this year with Geno Smith, for example. Other receiving options for the Jacksonville Jaguars is Parker Washington, who had a couple really good games until last week where he really had a dud. Although that game they were dominating the Chargers. Like I said, the running game really took that one over. And then Brenton Strange, depending if he comes back or not, depends how desperate you are at tight end. He's not good enough to be a flex for sure. But if you're desperate at tight end, you could put him in there. Although I'd like to see how his snap counts and or targets are now that they have Jacoby Myers in the mix. So with that being said here, I'm actually not looking to play any of these receivers. Brian Thomas was a first or second round pick depending in your draft. So if he's active, you might have to. It's not a bad matchup in terms of the defense. I mean, Arizona's not the worst defense, but they tend to have bad game scripts. They do give up the big play now and again, and their offense turns the ball over, giving the other team's offense more opportunity. So Brian Thomas, honestly, I'd put him at a high-end flex, RB wide receiver 2 at best. But if he's active, you probably have to play him. Jacoby Myers is a flex 2 right now until you see him really have a good game with Trevor Lawrence. Parker Washington, again, you could put him there as your last emergency player here, but I'd avoid Washington, Strange. I'd avoid all these receivers, to be honest with you. Play the running game, and if you want to go with Lawrence, hope that he gets a rushing touchdown. Now on the other side of the ball here, Arizona. What can we say about Jacoby Brissett? 24 or more points in all of his starts this week. Really been amazing. And he's doing this in the way that Jameis Winston used to do it. By turning the ball over early, having his team get down, and then having to throw to make up for the mistakes that he makes on the early part of the game. I think he threw 52 or 57 passes last week, 450 some odd yards passing. In terms of fantasy, he's been amazing. And Jacksonville is a decent defense, but they are on the road. This is in Arizona, a long trek here for Jacksonville. We've seen Jacksonville go up and down, and I think a lot of it has to do with who they're playing and where they're playing in terms of distance from home. So Jacoby Brissett at this point, you've got to keep playing him. I know a lot of people picked him up as a backup quarterback, so they probably have better options. I would put him in that Jordan Love range as he's like 7, 8, 9, 10 quarterback at worst, unless you have a surefire number one that you can't sit. Brissett's got to be in your lineup. I mean, you guys have to live with it at this point. He's showed nothing but the ability to get 25 points. Now we have our running back here, Bam Knight, with Amari DiMercado out. There's less likelihood to split carries, pending some other players we'll mention in a moment here. But Bam Knight is the main guy now. But Michael Carter last game got about 40% of the snaps. So it's not all Knight, although he is the most likely one to get in the end zone on a shorter range touchdown here. Now the receiver. This guy came out of nowhere last week. Not out of nowhere with knowing that Zay Jones is out for the year and Marvin Harrison Jr. was out last week. Michael Wilson, though, way overperformed our wildest dreams, getting 185 yards last week. I don't know if he can do it again, but he is the main man once again, as Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to miss another game. So it's really Michael Wilson and Trey McBride are the two main guys here, and they occupy different parts of the field. So that's why they both can play here. So Michael Wilson is a flex at worst. A wide receiver 2, I think, is a fair placement right here with the just the way the injuries are here on the field for the Arizona Cardinals. Trey McBride has been awesome. Getting 20-plus points 3 straight weeks here. So he is really good. You're going to play him no matter what. He is definitely flex consideration if you've got another good tight end on your team. Now for the dart throws here, we got Greg Dortch, Michael Carter, and Trey Benson if he is activated. We're not sure of that one yet. Honestly, if Trey Benson is activated, that puts Bam Knight in that last flex spot for you at the best, as we just don't know how they're going to split this up here, as Benson is he's not superior in terms of an overall running back, but compared to this group here, he is the superior running back. So if Benson's there, it's going to be a big-time mess. If Benson's out, you can play Bam as your last flex. All right, on to and Greg Dortch is a dart throw. I'm desperate. I've got nobody. Maybe put him in there for a couple random plays here. All right, our last game of our featured games we're going to break down here is the Atlanta Falcons heading into New Orleans. Both these teams are pretty poor. Falcons have 3 wins. New Orleans Saints, I think, at 2 wins, if I'm not mistaken. So we have, let's see, that gives a 4:25 Eastern kickoff. The over-under is very low at 40.5 points. New Orleans is favored by 2 points at home. I'm going with the home team here, guys. Pardon me. New Orleans is going to cover the 2 points and win this game. All right, now let's get in the 40.5. Man, that's so low. I'm going to go over just because that's so low. I don't think this is going to be a high-scoring game, but I think there's a chance for 3 touchdowns on one side of the ball to carry the weight. All right, now for some players to consider here. Kirk Cousins, what are we going to do? I think we're going to sit and watch this one right now. He may be playing for us in the next couple weeks if we're desperate again, and we do have a couple quarterbacks out this week, but Kirk Cousins, we don't want to throw him in blindly. He played last week in relief, didn't play great. So we'll just have to see. I mean, there's always a chance here. But with Drake London out as well here, don't forget we have Drake London out. That really cuts down on some of his options. This should be another one of those Bijan games. And hopefully this time they won't take their feet off the gas like they did against the Carolina Panthers when they got all those rushing touchdowns in the first half and failed to score in the second half. Cousins were sitting. Bijan were playing. Tyler Algier, you could play as a flex here. Because like I said, if they're going to score, it's going to be on the ground. There's going to be 2 to 3 touchdowns scored by running backs. Tyler Algier has a pretty decent percentage chance to get at least one of those rushing touchdowns. Now, Darnell Mooney, his talent, played pretty well last year, was actually nominated for our free agent pickup of the year last year. This year, however, has been just Stinksville, getting 2 points or less in almost every game, missing time throughout the season as well. But Drake London is out. My co-host Bernie believes in the talent. I don't necessarily disbelieve the talent. He hasn't shown it at all this year. Are you desperate enough? Are you have a gutsy play? Can he be this week's Michael Wilson? I don't know, guys. Darnell Mooney is a dangerous play, but not one out of the realm of possibility. If you have all injuries and all bye weeks this week, Darnell Mooney is someone that you could throw in on the back of your flex as a very sneaky play. Although, like I said, he has given you no reason to make such a move. However, you always got to get ahead of these things. If you wait till they do it, you're going to miss out. Kyle Pitts, he fits in there as your back end tight end, 11 to 14 range tight end. Definitely not good enough for a flex, in my opinion. So if these guys here, Kirk Cousins were sitting, Bijan were playing, I think you play Tyler Algier and Darnell Mooney as what the heck flexes here. And Kyle Pitts, we're going to try and find some other options. Now for the other side of the ball, Tyler Shuck played pretty well last week. And it seems to me that they were phasing out Taysom Hill a little bit, although there's always a chance for a random Taysom Hill game here. Tyler Shuck, I think we're going to sit on this one a little bit longer and just see if he can string some positive games back to back. Alvin Kamara, I like him this week. I think you can play him at home. Last week, I think it was his first 100-yard rushing game of the season. He's been doing a little better this lately. The only thing we're always worried about is a Taysom Hill vulture here. Devin Neal, who took the place of Kendra Miller, really has not been performing in terms of splitting the carries with Alvin Kamara. And then Chris Olave, really been a stud. Been playing better than you realize as a player on this team that's kind of off the radar here. Tyler Shuck's doing a little better, getting the ball down the field. And with Rashid Shaheed being traded away, Chris Olave is the main man. Brandon Cooks is working on a buyout or a waiver being released here. So it really is Chris Olave. And I feel like who else? They feel like they brought somebody in. Devon Vele, maybe someone else. Nonetheless, here he's the main man in town in terms of the passing game. Olave should be in your lineup at a wide receiver 2, probably at best, but a flex at worst. He should be in your lineup. Juwan Johnson, if you want to go for it at tight end, he's probably earned the right to be a tight end, similar to Pitts, although a little bit higher. He's probably at that 9 to 12 range of tight end. So if you play tight ends, he's going to be in your lineup. A flex, he's a very nervous flex here. You could do it if you're in a pinch, but I think you should find some better options. And Devin Neal, just really rookie running back here, it really just hasn't shown anything, really not being able to take any carries away from Alvin Kamara of any note. All right, guys, now it's time to take a look at this week's matchups in the Wingman Fantasy Football League.
I want you! I want the stallion! Ready, down! Put!
This week's matchup.
All right, guys, our first game on the docket here is yours truly, Amazing Spidey, coming in at 5-6. You're going to need to win 3 in a row here to get in the playoffs, most likely, as we are on the bottom of the overall score here. So that tiebreaker is not in our future here unless we go ham. Up against Nick Swaddle away, who had a tough part of the middle of the year when he had CeeDee Lamb out. But ever since CeeDee Lamb has returned, he is now on a 3-game winning streak at 6-5. The loser of this game is really going to be put behind the 8 ball, but especially for Michael's Amazing Spidey, who did have Nico Collins in his lineup on Thursday night and underperformed with only 7 points. Right now, the live projection is 85.5 for Amazing Spidey and 99.5 for Waddle away. Main players in this game here, it's going to come down to Drake May in the game against Cincinnati. against Lamar Jackson versus the Jets. He also has a pair of Dallas receivers, does waddle away with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, who were amazing last week. He's got Ramondre Stevenson in his lineup at the moment in a huge, big-time game against Cincinnati. Honestly, I like Ramondre Stevenson this week. If he gets on the field, he's going to have a decent day. All right, on to our next game here. And I've got Sean Tucker in my lineup right now. I hate the matchup against the Rams, and we're not even sure if Bucky Irving's going to play or not. So I am very desperate at the moment. All right, our next game here is Paul's Cubert Rage up against Ben's Go Gators here. And this one is going to be, both these teams are 6-5. So the winner of this game is really going to be in good shape for a chance to make the playoffs here. I mean, nothing guaranteed, of course, but getting that 7th win will lock you in at no worse than a 500 record. And both these guys are pretty good in points. So if they can get to that, even if they fall at 7-7, there's a decent chance they might sneak into the playoffs with some tiebreaker points. Although we have a lot of teams tied right now at 6-5. Main players in this one. Let's see, who do we have in this game that's of note? We already mentioned Cubert's Rage is going with the Pittsburgh quarterback. So that is a dicey play here right off the bat with Aaron Rodgers or Mason Rudolph. And both these players did have some players going on Thursday night, with Kaime Fairbairn making his return, getting 11.3 points. So a decent day here for the kicker. And James Cook had 20 points on. So both of them are over their both of them are over their initial projections here. But right now their live projection is 87.75, just under 88 points, and to 93.5 in favor of Go Gators. So we have Go Gators is going to be playing. Wow, he's got some tough players to go with here. He's got Sam Darnold in his lineup right now. He's going with Jake Ferguson as a flex and Alec Iomanner. Who does he have on bye this week? He's got Aaron Jones on his bench. I'm not going to tell anyone to play, but there's some guys I would sub in there. He's got Jordan Love on his bench. I'd even consider Jordan Love ahead of Sam Darnold this particular week. I know the matchup isn't as good in terms of the green-red, according to Yahoo here, but if Josh Jacobs is banged up, I think Jordan Love is going to have to overperform. All right, our next game on the list here is Andrew's Crazy Fish versus Katie's King George Scattaboo. Similar to my matchup here, Andrew's Crazy Fish at 5-6. Man, he started the season 0-5. If he wins this week, he can get back to 500 for the first time this season. And Katie's King George is at 6-5. Like we said before, the team 5-6, they lose here, they're pretty much done. And Katie's King George can really get herself into a strong position if she gets the win here to get her 7th victory of the season. It's really hard to tell, though, how this game's going to shake out, as Andrew's Crazy Fish is playing at Coy. Right now has 3 empty spots in his starting lineup, waiting till the news breaks to put in his last guys, really putting the mystery into how this game is going to go. Our next game here is Alex's They Took Our Jobs up against Corey's May Daddy 2s. Both these teams are at 6-5. Like we mentioned before, this is a huge game to really set the other teams up here for a potential playoff berth. And this one has our highest overall projection. Both these guys are projected at just around 104 points apiece, and they had no one in the Thursday night game, so they have all 8 players live and ready to go starting on Sunday. Some big players here. We got Baker Mayfield versus Brock Purdy, Jahmyr Gibbs versus Derrick Henry, Stephon Diggs versus DK Metcalf. Man, these are really, really even. And then we've got Jameson Williams versus, we'll say Kyron Williams. Oh, and no, Jackson Smith and Jigba versus Kyron Williams. This projection is even, and these teams are even. This is going to come down to the kickers and or defense, I think, on this one. DeAndre Swift is playing against Pittsburgh. That is a very sneaky play here for the Bears. They took our jobs. If I had to pick somebody, I don't know. I think I'm gonna go. They took our jobs, as he has Stephon Diggs versus Cincinnati, Jahmyr Gibbs versus the Giants. I like that. Both these teams have greens all over the place. This is tough. This is gonna be a good game, and the winner's gonna be in good shape, and the loser's not gonna be dead, as they both are very high in points. But it's gonna be tough going after this week to the loser. Our next game here is Lion Eyes at 2-9 in last place, unofficially eliminated from the playoffs here, up against the Fantastics, who's at 5-6. Lion Eyes is actually coming in strong here as his team is getting healthier. He's got Matthew Stafford, Emeka Buka, Chase Brown, Christian Watson, Travion Henderson is the wild card here in terms of he's been really great lately against Cincinnati. Travion Henderson versus Cincinnati. This is going to come down to whether or not Ramondre Stevenson is active or not. If Stevenson does not play, I am going with the upset here from Line Eyes, projected at just under 95 points to the Fantastics 101.5 points. That is the difference maker right there, as we have all good players on the Fantastic side, including Jalen Hurts, Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, Justin Jefferson. So that's the big question mark. Justin Jefferson versus Travion Henderson here, I think might make the big difference. Our next game here is Jimerson's Red Sox Nation at 4-7. Needs to win out to even have a chance. Up against Brian's under 40, our number 1 seed at 7-4. And both these players had some people in their lineup on the Thursday night game, as Red Sox Nation got off to a rough start, as Josh Allen, after his 46-point outburst last week against me, had only 12 points this week. And he had Matthew Prater, who missed an extra point, but finished with 9.2 points. And oh my, I'll take the under 40. Had the Houston defense, who had the 3 turnovers and 8 sacks. So they, and a fumble recovery. Yeah, that's part of the fumble recovery. And I guess they had 2 fourth down stops as well. So a good start. Our live projections not too far off here, though. 90 for Red Sox Nation to 95.5 for I'll take the under 40. We already had Josh Allen with a dud here. Now it's time for Saquon Barkley to pick up the slack, along with Rashee Rice. And he's got Jalen Warren is questionable in a positive matchup against Chicago. That's for Red Sox Nation. On the other side here, we have Darnell Mooney in the lineup. He's got some questionable receivers with Rome Odunze, Darnell Mooney, and Josh Downs. So it's going to come down to his dart throws on who's going to take this one. All right, our last game we're going to go through here is a juggernaut game here. Is Bernie's Team B, our point leader, versus our second in the standings, Jeff's Always Right. Bernie's Team B is at 6-5, leading in points. Jeff's Always Right is 7-4. And they too had some players in their lineup who actually overperformed their projections here, with the Buffalo defense getting 6 points on the 1 kickoff return. They didn't do anything else. And Khalil Shakir had a rough go until the fourth quarter, finished with 15 points on 110 yards and 8 catches. Both these teams are aiming over their projection, but Bernie's Team B has the highest projection of the week at over 105 points. With Jonathan Taylor back off from the bye week, but on a tough matchup against Kansas City, this is where this game's going to go. We have Jonathan Taylor versus Josh Jacobs, a questionable Josh Jacobs, and a Jonathan Taylor with a tough matchup. This is where this game will be decided. Our major running back players are going to be the difference makers in this game. All right, guys, it's now time to take a look at our updated power rankings.
I have the power!
By the power of Grayskull.
I'm living in it, no one man to have all that power.
Wingman Power Rankings.
All right, we did have some movement. Team B is now on top of the power rankings, as we take the most points for the season, mixed up with most wins for the season. The other category is most wins per week. So if you want to do almost like median scoring, so the team with the highest score in a week will get 13 wins for that week. The person with the lowest score of the week gets 0. So every week, if you're the number of teams that you outscore, you get a number there. And then our last one is projected points going forward. You add up those 4 categories together, you get a total, and the team with the highest number there is the highest in the power rankings. And like I said, Team B moves from 2 to 1. I'll take the under 40, moves from 3 to 2. Always Right falls down 2 spots to 3. May Daddy 2 stays locked in at that 4th spot. And Cubert's Rage moved up. Let's see. I think everyone moved up or down 1 spot, looks like to me. Yeah, so pretty much the big move here is Team B back on top. So after a 2-game winning streak here and his points leader that he's been, he is now on top of the power rankings. All right, guys, now it's time to get to Week 12, starts of the week. Bring it in. Take a knee. Who wants in?
Oh, pick me! Oh, I know, me!
All right, son, don't let me down. You're in.
Wingman Fantasy Football. Starts of the week.
All right, guys, we are not above accountability on this show, so we're going to let you know how we did last week. It was a bad week for us. I'm not going to lie, or a bad week for me for sure. Going into last week as a show, we were 25-31 on our starts of the week. Keep in mind here, we're picking back end flexes to see who we can put in our lineups here, or guys who are having a bad stretch. So, in all fairness, we're going with not dart throws, but guys who aren't automatic plays. But we do the best we can here. Anyway, excuses out of the way. We were 25-31 coming into last week. I was 14-13. Bernie was 11-18. And last week, our starts of the week was for Bernie. He went with Jameis Winston, Woody Marks, and T. Higgins. Winston had a very low projection at 11.5, came in at 15 points. That counts as a win as he beat his projection by more than a half a point. Woody Marks projected at 10.3 points, came in at 5.6. Unfortunately, that was a miss. And T. Higgins projected at 10.8, outperformed his projection to get 13.8 points. So in week 11, Bernie was 2-1, improving his yearly ranking here record to 13-19. All right, now for the bad news for me. I went with Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Warren, and Brock Bowers. Tua projected at 17.6 in a win. In overtime, only got 6.8 points. Jalen Warren, this one I'll take a mulligan on. I mean, I won't officially, but I will. As projected at 14.7, left the game early at 7.7 points, but Kenneth Gainwell had 26 points. So in my mind, I'm going to say the main running back for Pittsburgh did overperform. Someone got hurt. And then Brock Bowers at a high projection at 14.8. That was the tough one here. Came in at 10.7. So a playable player, but definitely a miss. So I was 0-3 last week. I fall now down to 14-16. So through 11 weeks, we are 27-35. And our starts of the week success rate here. Again, we're not above accountability, letting you guys know so you can make the most informed decision when we tell you our this week's starts of the week. And we're going to this week right now. Bernie's going with Trevor Lawrence as his quarterback start of the week. I told you he liked him. Projected at 17.6 points. Trevor Lawrence is playing against the Arizona Cardinals, and the Cardinals give it the 7th fewest to the position. They're actually a pretty good defense here, but nonetheless, they've been giving up a ton of yards as of late. Sometimes these rankings are based on a year's worth of work and not the recent trends. My quarterback start of the week is Matthew Stafford at 19.4 points. He was on fire just a few weeks back. Last week, he had a lesser going game. They're going against the Tampa Bay Bucks, who give up the 6th most points to the quarterback position. So Matthew Stafford is my quarterback start of the week. Moving on to our running back starts of the week. Bernie's going with DeAndre Swift at 12.7 points projected up against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they give up the 9th fewest points to the running back position. So not a plus matchup here as well. He's going against the grain here, going for some guys he has some gut feelings against other than following the trends of the defensive what these defenses allow. But who am I to talk? He was 2-1 last week, and I was 0-3. So I'm just saying what I see here. I'm going for my running back start of the week. I'm going with David Montgomery, projected at 11.2 points up against the they're not playing. They're playing the New York Giants, who give the 3rd most points to the running back position. So I think there's going to be a chance for both running backs to have a strong day, and David Montgomery is the one I'm going to go with here. Our receiver start of the week, Bernie's going with DK Metcalf at 12.2 points projected. Is that right? That's a high projection for this man. I'm just talking crap about all of his picks. I apologize. They're going against the Bears, or the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they give up the 5th most points to the wide receiver position. I'm asking you the question, do you think Aaron Rodgers helps DK Metcalf or Mason Rudolph? I kind of think Mason Rudolph does. We saw what Mason Rudolph did last year for Calvin Ridley in his 3 starts for the Titans, and Ridley is a worse player than DK Metcalf. So that's I don't mind it. It's a little off the board here, but why not? And my wide receiver start of the week is DJ Moore up against the Dallas. They're not playing Dallas. Sorry, playing Pittsburgh, the other side of the ball there. I apologize. It's DJ Moore against Pittsburgh, and the Pittsburgh Steelers give up the 2nd most points to the wide receiver position. So he's going with DeAndre Swift in the running game. I'm going with DJ Moore in the passing game. DJ Moore is only projected for 8.3 points, which is one of the reasons why I like it. I think he can beat that one here. All right, guys, now it is time for this week's 4th and Long with me.
First down, the game's over. Go
for it. This measurement could determine the Giants'
It is
season.
time for 4th and long.
With Bernie.
I apologize, guys. I'm here by myself, and my alarm clock's about to go off. It's very early in the morning. I've been up all night. This is a bad idea. Anyway, my fourth alarm this week is, what type of IR stash player are you? We have a lot of guys get hurt. Some of us draft hurt players. All right, so let's go through the scenarios here. If you have an IR spot in your league, in my opinion anyway, the best way to take advantage of it is to draft someone or pick up one of your first free agents who's on the IR, so you can put him in that slot so you can get an extra player on your team. So there's this kind of mode here. The person who plans for the IR, person who drafts a hurt player to have a chance to play them later, but more than that, open up a roster spot for maximum flexibility. Or are you the type who just waits for a player to get hurt to use your IR spot as opposed to preemptively using it? And then we have other managers here who, while we're here and you wait for guys to get hurt, the other question is, are you willing to just drop somebody who's going to be out for 2 to 3 months, similar to Joe Burrow? He got cut right away, and now he's coming back, while someone like Joe Mixon was drafted. He's been on the IR and may never play at all. Very interesting to hold on to some guys, and we let other guys go. It's a manager's choice, of course, but so what kind of player are you? Are you going to wait to see if they have a chance to come back until you know for sure they're out, or are you just going to cut bait and make decisions later as needed? The other type of manager here that uses the IR is someone who's hurt on their team, not coming back, but they're just too lovable, too much of a fan favorite that you just want to keep them on your roster until you really need that IR spot. We have a manager, King George Scattaboo, who changed her name due to that lovable running back. He's been placed on the IR, out for the year, and she has him on the IR just as a good luck token, kind of like that Tim Tebow pickup in the finals of the playoffs in years past. So are you a person who's going to stash someone from the beginning, use it for someone who's hurt, not use it at all, and cut a player who's got a long-term injury, or are you going to use that IR spot to hold on to a good luck token, even though he's not going to help your team? Let me know in the comments which kind of IR player you like to use them for here. There's no wrong way so just let me know if you're someone who's doing the good luck token, if you're doing the long-term stash, or if you're just trying to use it from the get-go here, or if you're not even going to use it at all except for the weekly guy who's out and going to cut bait for long-term injuries. All right, guys, now it's time to get into this week's Wingman Jam. We are in week 2 of phase number 4, where the winner of phase 4 will go heads up against Andrew, who won phase 3 in the Showcase Showdown in week 14, where they go heads up to earn some Wingman Fantasy Football swag here. So let's get into this week's Wingman Jam.
Wingman Fantasy Football.
Wingman Jam with Bernie the Bounty Hunter and Amazing Spidey. Boom shakalaka. New England Patriots. New Orleans Saints. Will the Saints go marching, or will this be over in a minute, man? All right, we're going with the Saints here on my side. I'm going with the Saints. I'm going with Alvin Kamara and Chris Olave in this one, while Bernie's going with the Minutemen, as we mentioned, Drake May and Travion Henderson. So, guys, go ahead and pick your Wingman Jam teams. Pick an NFL team. Anyone's available except for the New Orleans Saints and New England Patriots. And you can't pick a team that you've already picked if you've joined us before. If you haven't joined us, though, all those teams are available except for the ones that we've been picked there. And then pick your favorite 2 offensive players from that team. Just a reminder here, we play half-point PPR, 4-point per passing touchdown, and no negative points for turnovers, interceptions, and or fumbles. You get 1 point for picking a team. You get a bonus point for getting 3rd place out of all our competitors for the week. 2 bonus points for getting 2nd place, and 3 bonus points for getting 1st place. So the winner of any one week will get 4 points. We have those points roll over for the 3-week phase, and the manager with the most ranking points after 3 weeks will earn themselves a seat in the Wingman Jam Showcase Showdown in week 14. Friendly reminder, tiebreakers go to users out there, the audience members, ahead of Bernie and myself. And if there is a tie between audience members, the manager of the most first place finishes will earn that. And then the second tiebreaker is most second place, and so on and so forth. So with that being said, guys, do not be afraid to join us this week. As the season's almost over, might as well join us one more time here and get into the Wingman Jam. All right, guys, now it's time to get into this week's mailbag.
You've got mail.
You've got mail. Wingman Fantasy Football.
Mailbag! All right, this one comes in from Anonymous. It says, hey, where's Bernie been lately? I've only seen him once or so in the last 5 or 6 shows. Well, a couple of those times we've gotten together and we couldn't get the recording to stick by the time it was too late at night, so then I would just do it by myself overnight. Well, that's one example. This particular time here, again, for those who aren't aware, I'm a UPS driver, and we're getting into that season, guys. I'm getting some late days, and Bernie and our schedule is not the same. We do have a little bit of overlap, but if we don't hit that timing just right, one of us is we can't get it done together. It means that I'm the one that has the computer program here, and I'm the one doing this. I do it overnight. Right now, guys, it's almost 5 in the morning. I've been asleep, and I have to get up in an hour. So this is bad news for everybody here. This is dangerous. So just keep it in mind there. So that's why Bernie hasn't been on lately. Our schedules haven't quite been working out, and when they do, we've had some technical difficulties. Nonetheless, he is still a big part of the show, and we're going to get him on our next 2-point conversation for sure. This next one comes in from Timbo Slice. Oh, thank you, Timbo Slice. I was wondering, do you guys make any money? Do you guys get paid for this? And I'm going to tell you, no, we do not. We do this out of the love of our hearts for you guys out there. We love you out there, all of you guys. Thanks for watching. Really, we do appreciate it. No, this is a hobby for us. We're trying to learn and figure out the best way to do it. We are going to be doing some changes, though. I'm thinking over the next week or two and into next season, as we did start this off as a love letter to our Wingman Fantasy Football League. It used to be all about our league members and the league scores. If you notice, we've been branching out with some of our NFL game previews, and I'm hoping over the next, maybe over the rest of this year and definitely into next year, having more game previews and breakdowns, and maybe having a dedicated, an extra show dedicated just to our matchups and standings. So as we get more audience members out there who might not be directly associated with our league, that they're not so alienated potentially. But right now, a good chunk of our audience is from our league, so I don't want to alienate the guys who've been sticking with us the most. But we are going to try and phase the ratio here a little bit and maybe add an extra show to give 100% to the league members, and that way the other shows can be more generic in terms of NFL and fantasy at a whole. So with that being said there, guys, just want to mention that to you. Oh, we got another one here this one comes in from Andrew. It says, are there any segments that you would like to do that you haven't done a lot of lately or at all this year? And yes, I'd like to invite you guys. We have a segment that we call Fantasy Court. This one comes out if you guys have like any disputes in your leagues out there, if you wanted to. Sorry, any disputes or any concerns, or if you need a mediation in terms of conflicts in your league, we will take it to court. We will take it to Fantasy Court, and we will give you a ruling on which way the arbitration should go. So if you go ahead and leave a comment if you have any concerns about your league, and we'll give you an unbiased, unfiltered opinion here in our Fantasy Court segment, where we'll break that out whenever it comes around. So yes, thank you, Andrew. So we do have that. I've been waiting to do it, but there hasn't been time and hasn't been any need. So at this point, but it's available for you guys if it gets into it. So don't be afraid to let us know if you need any disputes ruled on here in our Wingman Fantasy Court of Justice. All right, guys, thank you for joining me, guys. As you know, I'm up late, feeling sick, working hard, but we're working hard for you guys as well. You can find our audio feeds on your favorite podcasting platforms. Just search Wingman the League. We'll come up to the top of your search. Hey, when you find us there, guys, don't be a stranger. Hit the follow button, leave a comment, all that good stuff, and let us know what we can do or what segments you'd like us to add or anything like that. If you want to see our show, see our bar room, our decorations, our helmet wall, there it is behind me over there. You go to our YouTube channel at wingmanfantasyfootball.com/YouTube or youtube.com/ Wingman Fantasy Football. When you head over there, guys, do me that favor. Hit that like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. We'll get you into our mailbag segment. We'll settle your disputes. We'll let you know which Wingman Jam teams are out there. And with all that being said, again, thank you so much for joining me once again, guys, for another edition of Wingman Fantasy Football, the League podcast. With that being said, may your glasses be full, your mugs stay frosty, and we will see you next time.